Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here, and if the background music, or indeed the title of this video, didn't already tip you off, today I'd like to talk about Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition The Board Game, in fact, which I played this week despite the fact the Kickstarter campaign hasn't actually ended yet. How did we manage it? Well, Rising Star Games very kindly invited me, Annie, for along to play the prototype, which of course is still being playtested and fine-tuned, and I'm pleased to say we had a really good time. In a nutshell, Deadly Premonition The Board Game is easy to pick up, but boasts a surprising amount of strategic depth. It's also a game that makes messing with other players easy and fun, and it ties in very nicely with the video game's source material. That's the short version anyway, but what's the game actually like, and how does it play? A quick note at this point, obviously we're playing with a work in progress, so none of the assets should be considered final. The card art is going to change from in-game screenshots to custom drawn pictures, for instance, and the cloth mat you can see in the middle of this shot is of course a placeholder. Anyway, in Deadly Premonition The Board Game, everyone gets a role card. In a 4-player game, 3 of you will be playing as agent, while 1 of you will secretly be the killer. Everyone also starts off with 6 characters laid out in front of them, with these characters starting out at the bottom of the card, i.e. as lead suspects. Each player's goal is to get all of their characters into the presumed innocent field, i.e. the top of the board, at which point they'll be able to accuse another player's character of being an accomplice to murder and potentially win the game. I'll get on to exactly how that works in due course, but for the time being it's important to note that during the course of a game of Deadly Premonition The Board Game, characters will get murdered, which of course is where the player who is secretly the killer comes in. The killer's goal, in a 4-player game at least, is to bump off 8 characters in total. If they manage to do that before any other player gets all of their characters to the top of their board and makes the right accusation, they've won. In essence then, Deadly Premonition The Board Game is a race against the body count, meaning the length of the game largely hinges on how efficiently everyone plays. But how do you get your suspects cleared? How does the killer kill people? How do you kill people? Because, let's be honest, there is definitely a strategic advantage to doing a bit of murder in this game, no matter who you're playing as. Well, you influence the flow of the game by playing evidence cards. These cards most commonly feature coloured stripes with symbols on them. When playing an evidence card, you match one of its printed symbols to one of the symbols on a character card. You play a green symbol to provide an alibi for one of your characters and push them into the presumed innocent field, and you play a red symbol to submit incriminating evidence about someone else's character and shove them back down into the lead suspect's pool. Be warned though, players can contest you on this by matching a green symbol to their affected character, at which point you either need to submit more evidence or admit defeat. So while playing with other players' characters is an essential and fun part of the game, it can turn into a war of attrition. Anyway, at the start of your go, you draw up to 5 cards, and then you can take 2 actions, i.e. you can generally play up to 2 cards. All relatively straightforward, but there is one element of the evidence deck we haven't yet discussed, and that is action cards. The action cards that complete the evidence deck can have powerful effects on the flow of the game. You can make others discard cards, safeguard your characters from being influenced for a turn, and you can even force another player to go on a toilet break, meaning they can't submit any evidence of their own when it gets to their turn.
Are you going to toilet break?
Some of these cards are free actions which can really help, and there's a pleasing amount of card synergy in the deck, so with a decent draw hand you can really swing the game in your favour in just one turn. The action cards are undeniably the best bit about Deadly Premonition The Board Game. They're nice nods to the game itself, but most importantly they add a real competitive edge to proceedings, and using them is a lot of fun. Each action card is kind of like a punchline, only you're not so much telling other players a joke as trying to completely derail their game. There's one more important feature to action cards that needs to be discussed, and that's the weather symbol. When you play an action card featuring a weather symbol, such as FK in the coffee, you can choose to use the printed action, or draw and play a card from the weather deck. A couple of these cards have really powerful effects. One prevents all players from drawing new evidence cards at the start of their next turn, for instance, while another makes all players put one of their characters back down into the lead suspect's field. No ifs, no buts. Most importantly, however, weather cards can summon the Raincoat Killer. When this happens, the player who drew the card rolls a d6, killing whatever numbered character corresponds to the roll result. While it sounds macabre, having your suspects die is actually very beneficial, as it narrows down the number of cards you have to maneuver into the presumed innocent field. It feels a bit weird to be ostensibly playing as one of the good guys, only to yell with delight when someone you're investigating is murdered, but it's actually an important part of the game. Having all of the players feel good about their suspects being murdered allows the killer to hide in plain sight, meaning, at least in the early game, having your characters bumped off isn't that suspicious. Of course, as the murders start creeping up toward the killer's dreaded target number, opting to have your characters killed becomes more and more suspicious, and if you keep your wits about you, you should be able to spot fairly easily who's a bit too keen on the old murder and is thus almost certainly playing as the killer. Well, I say you should be able to spot it. To be honest, both games we played, I completely missed it because I was too absorbed in my evidence cards, in getting all my suspects cleared, and of course, messing with Aoife. With enough practice though, I'm sure that part of the game will come naturally, and if anything, it's a testament to how fun the rest of the game is. Now, as I mentioned earlier, once you get all your characters into the top field, you can submit one final red card in order to accuse another player's character of being an accomplice to murder, thereby accusing that player of being the killer. If that player has no cards with which to fight your accusation, they have been officially accused and have to reveal what their role is. If they turn out to be the killer, you win immediately. Good job, detective. If they aren't the killer, however, the game keeps going, but changes fundamentally. First off, the falsely accused player is eliminated, but they do get to keep influencing the game. On their turn, they don't play any cards, but they do roll a d6 in order to start bumping off their characters, driving the kill count up and hastening the end of the game. It's a nice way of keeping everybody involved until the end, and it also makes sure things don't drag on too much. So, all in all, there's a lot to like about Deadly Premonition the board game. There are lovely nods to the original video game itself, there's strategic depth, and frankly, it's just fun to mess with other players. We laughed a lot during the 2 games we played, which feels a bit weird given it's a game about murder, but it's also fitting given the absurdity of the source material. It'll be interesting to see how the final game turns out, but for now at least, things are looking very positive. So thank you very much for watching this video on Deadly Premonition the board game. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, there are plenty more for you to watch. I reviewed the Dark Souls board game recently. Last year I had a look at the prototype for This War of Mine the board game, and Aoife can teach you how to play Beasts of Balance if you feel like watching that. Do like and subscribe if you feel like it, but honestly there's no pressure. Either way, thanks for watching, and have a lovely day.